Fersan in the Field, Real Issues, Real Solutions, is brought to you by Newport-Fersan Jamaica Limited, the first on the land.
Time now for Fersan in the Field, Real Issues, Real Solutions. This morning, we're taking a look at the Power of Spectra Insecticide, Miticide in an Integrated Pest Management Strategy. Joining us, Sajae Jones, agronomist for Manchester and St. Elizabeth with Newport-Fersan, Jamaica. Good morning, Sajae, and welcome back to the show. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. Good morning, listeners. Happy to be here.
Good. Happy to have you on with us. So, Sajae, I'm going to jump right in because there's a lot for us to discuss. Now, I understand that there is farmers are experiencing 20 to 40% crop losses due to insect pest damage. Can you just talk to us a little bit about some of the factors that continue to drive those losses?
Yes. Well, when we think of those losses, what we can think of is developing regions, which often report a higher percentage of crop losses due to a lack of access to IPM practices and control tools. When we speak of IPM, we're talking, of course, of integrated pest management. We can also look at pest resistance and monoculture farming having intensified the impact of certain pests. And we can also look at climate change, shifting the pest prevalence, increasing outbreaks in areas that were previously unaffected. There is even a rise in the intensity of pest activities based on the season. And we can look at something called degree days for this. So simply put, it's a relationship between how fast the pests reproduce and the heat or the temperature that is present. Look at this example. Thrips can reproduce at 20 degrees Celsius between 20 to 22 degrees. But when you move the temperature up to, say, 25 degrees Celsius, it can take 13 to 15 days. When it goes up to 30 degrees, it can take 10 to 12 days. So we can see that relationship with each time the area gets hotter, then the time for reproduction for that insect pest, it drops.
Right, and so there's a lot that is happening. Sajae, we know that many of these insects have become prolific breeders because of the hot and dry conditions, and unfortunately, we're seeing a lot more of that going on. Just now in the weather report, I shared information about high levels of winds expected, Saharan dust that we're dealing with. There's a lot to absorb in terms of the weather conditions, and these conditions I know make it easier for these insects to breed.
Yes, they do. Unfortunately, these are the realities that we are faced with now, and this is why now more than ever we have to incorporate the integrated pest management strategies and approaches in our crop farming if we are to make it out.
Now, can I just then talk to you a little bit about Spectra, because it is important that the farmers understand that there are solutions out there. What is Spectra, and what makes it an excellent insecticide, miticide for use as part of a broader IPM crop protection strategy?
All right. So let us look at IPM to answer this question. Let's look at IPM and what can happen if it's ignored. Now, as we were alluding to before, IPM is a holistic or a synergistic approach to pest control, incorporating multiple methods of control, such as your biological, your cultural, your mechanical, or your chemical. When you look at biological, you're looking at your parasites or parasitoids, like your ladybugs, putting them in the field, we know they can control some of your pests. The cultural is like you're changing your planting time, your crop spacing. Mechanical is the use of your crops or your row covers, such as your plastic mulch or your organic mulch. And then, of course, the chemical control, which most farmers are used to. Now, the use of Spectra can limit the amount of chemical control when it is necessary, because you know that's a last resort. Using this product will give you a one-shot. When I say a one-shot, I mean that it can control both insect pests and mite pests, and even your worms. So using this product will limit the amount of pesticide that you'll have to apply to your field to get a control of your pests that are bothering you. What can happen when IPM is ignored is that pesticides can be overused. And that's why I said that using this product will limit the amount of pesticide that you have to use. The pest can develop resistance. It can be a human health risk, and you can also incur economic losses.
Okay, which is really what we don't want the farmers to have to face. Now, we touched on it briefly just now, but can you just expand the issue of how the weather impacts the pests and our approach? What approach should the taking?
Okay, well, the weather. Whenever we speak of the weather, hello, I'm sorry that you were breaking up a while ago. Could you repeat the question?
No, is I'm asking you about how it is that the weather impacts our approach to pest control. So you heard me clearly. Go ahead.
Okay.
So you weren't answering what I didn't ask.
Okay. Okay, great. So the weather, how it impacts our approach to pest control. Well, the weather we know has different functions here. So we can think of the weather. We can think of rainfall. We can think of temperature. We can think of humidity. When you think of temperature, we will think of how warm temperatures speed up the reproduction of the pest. And then we spoke of the degree days. We can think of how cold temperature can slow down the reproduction of certain pests. And high humidity can favor fungal diseases growth. Low humidity can often encourage the reproduction of certain pests such as your spider mites and your thrips. And rainfall can even aid you, can even wash out some of the pests, and even drown the eggs of certain pest population by physically removing them from the tree. So the weather can be a two-pronged. It can aid you to some degree, and it can also be a thorn in your side if you don't know what you're doing when it comes on to it.
You have to have an awareness of how to deal with it. Now, what are some of the likely factors at play when the use of a particular pesticide fails to provide the expected pest control?
Well, as you know, we are always in the field and we're always interacting with farmers. And one of the biggest problems that we see happening whenever all the prerequisites are met in terms of a farmer has identified their pest, a farmer is using IPM, and it comes down to the integrity where though they have to use a chemical control, it comes down to the solution. When you speak of the solution, we of course are alluding to water pH. Now, when the pH of your water is off, then it's almost as if you haven't sprayed. Using incorrect pH to mix your solution, it's better that you didn't go out and spray most of the time. What will happen is that alkaline hydrolysis can take place because most of the waters, all of the waters you can say in Jamaica are alkaline, meaning they have a pH of above 7 heading up in the 8. If I were to give you a percentage of me testing waters, just in Manchester and St. Elizabeth, we could say that over 85%, closer to 90% of the waters that you will test will come out as being alkaline. Now, whenever this happens, the molecules of the product that you are applying will break down when they make contact with water. So you'll go out and you'll spray colored water, for want of a better term, on your field, and you will not get that control that you so desire.
Okay. Sajae, what happens when the farmer applies more pesticide than he or she should on the crop?
You will, in fact, incur more often than not what we call phytotoxicity. Now, this is when you are essentially, for want of a better term, poisoning your crop with the same thing that you should be using to help your crop, right? And this is where pest identification comes into play. So you would, of course, want to think of pest identification, and you would also want to think of, as I said before, the water pH. Because identifying your pest properly will allow you to be able to select the correct pesticide when needs be to go out and apply, and this will limit the amount of it that you will need. So pest identification simply refers to recognizing or diagnosing the pest that is threatening your crop's health, right? And the failure to identify it. Let's take some examples into play. So there are thrips as insect pests. They use piercing or sucking mouthparts to puncture the plant cell and feed on their contents, right? This can lead to curling leaves. On the other hand, you have mites that have a needle-like mouthpart that suck out the content of the plant that can also lead to curling leaves. So if it's that you're going to the field and there's a curling leaves, it can be either of these pests. And more often than not, if you think of sweet peppers or hot peppers, whenever someone sees curling leaves, the first thing comes in their head, mite. Let's get a miticide and go out and spray. Now, if you don't properly identify, it can lead to a problem. How can you identify them? You can, of course, use a microscope, and you can go out and look to see if you're seeing either the mites or the thrips. But if you don't have a microscope, what you can do is you can look for fine weight green under the leaf in the case of spider mites, or stippling, a yellowish, whitish, or reddish kind of stippling underneath the leaves. And for thrips, you can look, for example, for excessive flower fall as they favor the flower of the sweet peppers, for example. You can look for scabbing and scarring on the fruit, right? You can see the thrips with your naked eye. They are slender and tiny insects, right? So if you did not identify either of these properly, then that can lead to overuse of chemical. Thankfully, there are chemicals such as Spectra that will control both of them, but you still need to identify them, and I'll give you a reason why. Let's look at the sooty mole complex as a reason why you still need to identify and not go out and say, well, if it's either thrips or mites, I can shoot it with Spectra and it will give me control. Now, the sooty mole complex, for those who don't know, it works like this. So you can have aphid feeding on the plant and they will secrete a honeydew substance. Then ants now can move around that substance, and it's a perfect environment for fungal growth it's a perfect environment for fungi to grow, and it will create a black powdery coating over the leaf of your crop. This can, of course, reduce photosynthesis, and most persons will go there and they will see now the black coating, and the first thing comes into mind, this is a fungal problem. Let me pull for a fungicide and spray my crop to try and control this fungal problem. Now, if we do not attack the problem at the root, we'll spray forever a fungicide. And the problem really and truly is the root problem being the aphid, secondary problem now being the ants moving it around, and the ants will of course protect the aphid because it's giving it the honeydew that it loves. So proper identification can lead to a misuse of chemical, and you know spraying the fungicide not seeing a control that you're seeking, you will go out and put on more fungicide, which can lead to phytotoxicity. So you'll have two problems now. You will have an inhibition of the sunlight going to your leaves because of the sooty mole, and you will also be putting the tree through stress via phytotoxicity or spraying on too much product.
Right, so we're on the break, so let us clear that. When we come back, we're going to be joined by a few farmers, and we'll find out what has been happening in their field and how it is that what you have put on the table has been helping them. We are inside the feature, Fersan in the Field, Real Issues, Real Solutions, and we have with us Sajae Jones, agronomist of Manchester and St.Elizabeth, and we're taking a look at the Power of Spectra Insecticide, Miticide in an Integrated Pest Management Strategy. And we're turning the spotlight now on a few farmers and what is going on in their neck of the woods, the challenges they have been having, and how it is that this particular product from Newport-Fersan has been helping them. Jvian Morgan is first up. Good morning and welcome to Farm Talk. How are you?
Hello, good morning. I'm fine.
Good.
It's wonderful to be here with you guys.
Good to have you on with us. What kinds of crops are you growing, Jvian?
Currently, only growing scallion and thyme. The seasons will tell going forward and to what else we might be having in production.
All right. So it is just a matter of the period that you're in that determines what it is that you grow.
Yes.
All right. Tell us then, what are some of the pest challenges you were facing before you introduced Spectra insecticide to your integrated pest management program, and what kinds of results have you been getting since introducing the product?
Well, before the skeleton fields were, I had a specific skeleton field where we had a heavy infestation of thrips, where the thrips attack the skeleton and have the leaves bent white. And I was talking to Mr. Jones one evening, and he came by and he recommended that I use the Spectra. And using the Spectra, using the Spectra, we applied it at the lowest rate. And afterwards, the result that we got from it made us realize that the products that we were using before, and even adjusting our spray cycle, because we normally have a 2-week spray cycle, and we had to adjust back down to 5. And after using the Spectra and then the result that we gained from it, we could have returned back to our original 2-week spray cycle and continue onwards and getting extremely good results right through. Even up to today, we basically save a lot from using Spectra.
All right. So would you then recommend it to others?
Definitely recommend it to others, and I have been recommending it to others, because even my neighbors who have fields beside mine, we have to work we have to work side to side and side, because whatever affect them affect me. And I was being affected by the tips, they were being affected by the tips. They were asking me what I was using, and I made a recommendation to them as well.
It certainly sounds good. So something you get a good product, you pass
Pardon?
it to others, you share it with others?
Yes.
I said you get a good product and then you share it with others.
Yes. You have to. We're in this together.
Absolutely. And because the fields sit side by side, it is always important for you to engage in those kinds of conversations. Jvian, thank you so very much, my brother. And I look forward to more conversation with you not too long from now.
Thank you very much for having me, and also looking forward to having more conversations with you guys.
All right, bless you. We turn the spotlight now on Nordia Harriot out of Mount Pleasant in Portland. Miss Nordia, good morning. How are you?
Pleasant good morning to you, darling. I'm blessed.
Good. And how are things over there in the eastern parish of Portland?
Well, we have a nice cool morning this morning, kind of overcast.
Have you been getting rain?
Not right now. A little dewing from about Friday gone.
So Portland, like other parishes, having its own challenges in terms of limited amount of rainfall. And yet it still continues to look so lush, green, and beautiful.
Nice,
so we have
nice.
to be... Excellent. Yes. All right. So we're, of course, talking this morning about the power of Spectra Insecticide, Miticide. What impact did the insecticide have on the health of your crops and the yields compared to previous seasons or products that you have used?
Well, I'm a vegetable farmer. Like lettuce, cabbage, and tomato and a variety of vegetables. Well, to be honest, I did have a very bad infested problem in the cabbage. And after Damien Price, a visit on my farm, Damien Price leave Fersan, he introduced Spectra to me, right? And same day introduced it to me, I buy it. I purchased it in Portland and use it following day on my vegetable, and believe it, by 3 days time, I see an excellent result. And when I use it the first time, I could leave my field at least a week before I go back in it with Spectra. And I used to spray it every 3 days, so that the impact and the result I get from Spectra, excellent product.
And I would imagine then Nordia, that what you did was to run to your neighbor and say, "Listen, man, this is what I'm trying. Have you tried it?"
Everywhere I go, I spread it. Everywhere I go. Once it's a farmer, and I hear you said anything about insect, that's the product I introduced to you.
And how have you been doing, generally though, in terms of crop production?
Well, very excellent crop production because speaking to you now, after I finish, I'm going to spray some cabbage and it's Spectra I'm using also.
So not only are you doing well in terms of reducing the pest population, but you're doing well in terms of how the crops are growing. And so better yields will mean more money in your pocket.
Excellent, excellent.
So you're excited about that. Of course, that's what you're in business for. Thank you very much, Miss
Right.
Nordia. And I will call you back at some point for more conversation.
No problem. Have a blessed day, darling. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
you too. And we're sticking with the East as we welcome now Sharlon Smith out of Seaforth, St. Thomas. Sharlon, good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you?
I am good, and how are you doing?
I am great. Good to have you on with us. What kinds of crops you grow?
I am a Scotch bonnet farmer and
Uh,
cabbage farmer.
you're a Scotchy man.
Yes, yes.
And of course, that makes sense because that is in high demand, not just in Jamaica, but on the world market. What caused you to get into Scotch bonnet peppers, the production of same?
Besides the demand, I was also recommended to. It was a best crop to plant for my area since there are other Scotch bonnet farmers nearby, and they said we're getting good results. So I just followed the trend.
Right. All right. And then them don't have hand to sell Scotch bonnet pepper, and you might not either.
That is something I can't disagree with. Can't have too much of the Scotch bonnet market there.
No, you can't disagree with it. But taking care of the peppers and warding off insects and pests is really very important. So,
Yes.
talk to us a little bit about your use of Spectra. How quickly did you observe changes in pest activity after applying the insecticide?
All right. Normally, I would use a other product. Until Mr. Newville and I had a discussion, he was saying to me that my peppers had mites and a few prips and a few mealybugs, and I said, all right, why not give Spectra a try? And after giving Spectra a bit down the line, I saw that the insects were reduced, got more peppers out of my trees, as well as my trees were looking much better.
Right. And of course, when you get the plants looking better and you take them to market, they naturally do better in terms of sales.
Yes.
So certainly something that you should be very excited about. I would imagine then, Sharlon, that you are in fact sharing that kind of news with other farmers out there.
Yes, I would appreciate sharing it with other farmers because at the end of the day, I always hear the saying that whatever you know and it's good news, might as well share it with others. You may never know how best it can impact someone else.
That's right. Thank you so very much for sharing with us this morning. And we will definitely be coming back to you for more conversation.
And thank you for having me.
A pleasure, a pleasure. All right, so Sajae, these are very satisfied customers that you have. They clearly have all. And one of the things that I note is that they have used Spectra across different crops.
Versatile
Sajae?
product. Hello?
Yes, I'm hearing you now. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, it's a very versatile product, and as you said, satisfied customers. That's what we strive to always have. Persons that are satisfied with the results that they're getting from both our visit and our product.
Excellent. All right, so we're on the break, Sajae. So let us clear that. And then when we come back, we are taking a look. We're doing a little bit more of a deep dive into the solution. All right. right, so we are rounding out our conversation now with Sajae Jones, agronomist from Manchester and St. Elizabeth. We are inside the feature first and in the field, real solutions, issues, real solutions. So the issues first and then the solutions. All right, Sajae, what are some of the current strategies being utilized by Newport-Fersan's technical team in trying to reduce the incidence of poor pest control based on several factors I highlighted earlier?
All right. Well, when it comes down to our methods that we employ, of course, we always seek to push IPM. We also talk about our field appraisal, and we push heavily our water management practices. Right. So let's take a look at what we mean when we say IPM. We incorporate both our agricultural management system programs with our field appraisal tool, combining together to give you that IPM approach, right? We are able to properly identify and safely identify pests using both of these methods and the IPM tenants that we spoke of earlier, to identify our pests. If it is that we see fit or we see where we need to use, of course, the chemical control, then that's when more often than not we tend to recommend Spectra, because it has a double active ingredient, right? Labdacylogen and profenofos. Now, if we are to take a look at the active ingredients themselves and what they actually do, labdacylogen is a synthetic pyrethroid, which mimics the natural pyrethrins found in the chrysanthemum flower, right? It is more stable and longer lasting than its natural forms. It is highly toxic to insects and also mites at low doses. What it does is attacks the nervous system and causes paralysis. It has a knockdown effect, right? It's a broad spectrum active ingredient which controls a wide range of pests. They include aphids, thrips, caterpillars, beetles, leaf hoppers, whiteflies. So you can see it can control a broad spectrum. And as we heard from our farmers, not only does it control a broad spectrum of pests, but it can be used on a broad spectrum of crops. It acts as both a contact and an ingestant poison. So it can touch the pests and it can kill them. And if they consume the leaf that is on, it will also kill them. The other active ingredient, profenofos, is an organophosphate. It also has a broad spectrum control of similar pests being aphid, thrips, whitefly, caterpillar, and mite. It's also a contact stomach action, and it kills the pest very well, just as the labdacylogen does. So both of these, being broad spectrum and being in one product, you can see why the products work so very well. I'll give you an example. During our field appraisal, sometime last year in spring, you will know that in sweet potatoes, you'll have problems identifying mites in those times. So we actually used another component that we offer to farmers, being the microscope that is a part of our field appraisal. So we'll go out and we'll use the microscope that connects to our phones, and we'll be able to identify beyond a shadow of a doubt what is affecting your field. So we went out there and we identified mites as being the problem in the sweet potato. And we were able to prescribe using our prescription pad and leaving the notation with the farmer and also our phone number of what is affecting you and how you can go about controlling this problem. We offered up the spectra to the farmer, and he gained excellent control of his mites in the sweet potato, which gave him a quick turnaround of the crop, so he was able to harvest some great yields from it. Not only that, but we also recommend during our visit even the proper types of nozzles to use. Because in fact, we have gone out and seen farmers using fan nozzles where cone nozzles should be used, and vice versa. Now, what
All
are
right,
the
hold on a
important?
sec. Don't move from there, because that is a very important point you have made. So the nozzle that you use is important as well when you're undertaking any kind of spray program.
Yes, it most definitely is. The nozzles are shaped differently. Cone nozzles, especially the hollow types, produce a fine circular spray pattern that's ideal for covering complex or uneven surfaces like the underside of leaves, dense foliage, fruit trees or vines. In contrast, the fan nozzle is flat and it's ideal for covering soil application or row crops. So the fan nozzle will be more ideal for application of, for example, your herbicides, and the cone nozzle now will be better for your insecticide or your fungicide application, right? So that's how both of those nozzles will differ in terms of where you use them. And then we go back again, of course, to the water quality. Now, we also travel with our pH meter, which we demonstrate to farmers by showing them their water pH. And we will mix the chemical with you so you can get the proper use of your chemical. And then, of course, we encourage you to have your own pH meter, because you'll understand that not every time you're going to mix, you're going to be on site. And then if you get a proper control today, and then tomorrow, you move on to not having a proper control of your pests, being you spraying a compromised product onto your field, then you're in essence vaccinating your pests and creating resistance to the products, and then you will have another headache on your hands at that point in time.
Important for the farmer or the person who is doing the spraying for the farmer to be aware of these kinds of issues. What kinds of prices are we talking about, or what price are we talking about for this product?
Well, with all the information that we are given, most persons may say, well, this product sounds as if it's expensive. The truth of the matter is that Spectra is one of the most inexpensive products that you will ever come across on the market. Now, let's use some examples to show you why it's inexpensive. Products of similar nature will cost around $2,000 per application per acre. Or to put it in a better understandable way, about $2,000 for just this product that works like Spectra, similar, not as good as Spectra, but does work similar to it. Will take $2,000 to mix a drum, a spray. Spectra will take only $1,200 to mix that same drum of spray, controlling an acre. Now, that's a 65% difference, meaning that it's 65% of the other product that Spectra will cost. So it's way cheaper, only using 65% of your farmer cost to spray your field and getting such excellent control. If you're looking at just spraying by a bucket, then you can even use the 100 ml of the product, because it comes in 250 and it comes in 100 ml. The 250 ml, of course, will be the one for 1,200 that sprays an acre or a drum, and the 100 ml will be around $600, which can give you a 3 to 4 buckets. So this product is excellent, and it costs next to nothing to control a wide array of pests and give you excellent control at the same time.
It certainly sounds good. And of course, the final thing that I'll ask of you, Sajae, is to tell us how people can reach you.
You can reach us by Googling us, and our agronomist numbers are there. You can reach me directly at 876-553-3832. That's either WhatsApp or straight call. We are always here and waiting for your call to give you that visit to turn your farming operation around.
Thank you so very much. A pleasure to have had you on this morning, and looking forward to our next conversation.
Yes, thank you for having me.
A pleasure. Sajae Jones, agronomist for Manchester and St. Elizabeth, Newport-Fersan, and of course we take a word from them before we wrap the show.
Fersan in the Field, Real Issues, Real Solutions was brought to you by Newport-Fersan Jamaica Limited, the first on the land.